Hello, everybody. I'm Krasi Attasio. I'm a sidereal astrologer, and I will talk about the total lunar eclipse, which will happen on 20 to 21st of January 2019. This is one of the eclipses which will happen this year. So we actually have more than 2 eclipses annually. So this is not such a big drama, but in ancient Babylon, in ancient Mesopotamia, which rules I will use in order to analyze such important celestial events like the solar or the lunar eclipses, the eclipses were regarded as a very dramatic events. They were always considered ominous, and at that time, the astrologer, the astronomer would climb on the ziggurat. This was a special tower built like in the center of the palace of the king, where they would have special purpose of watching and analyzing the eclipses. And yes, it is not advisable to look at the eclipses, but it was done by the astronomers, astrologers in order to predict ominous events, in order to save the life of the king if needed. Then they would introduce measures and rituals, and some of the measures were not very were evil, I would say. They would replace the king with someone temporary in order the evil to go to the person which would replace the king, and so on. They would do a lot of measures. And yes, the eclipses are not a positive event. They are troublesome. And whatever you read, whatever New Age versions you hear and you read, the eclipses are not good. They are, of course, permitted by the Creator, so they have certain important divine purpose for us, like purification, like gaining wisdom, like, of course, learning purposes, but they are difficult events. Whether their meaning is to teach us something or not, in any case, they are difficult events. This eclipse is a total eclipse. Takes quite long, approximately 5 hours, will be visible from all over the world. And I'm looking here just in front of me at the website of NASA, and they announced that Europe, Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Pacific, Atlantic, Indian Ocean, Arctic, basically all over the world will be covered by the shadows of this eclipse for quite some time. And it is known that wherever the shadows passes through, the influences of the eclipses will be felt. So this is important to know. I will, of course, make detailed analysis and will share with you my screen in a second, just to show you how the chart of the eclipse looks like and how we analyze this. So what is happening? On the 20th to 21st of January, we are going to have a total lunar eclipse, and the lunar eclipses occur when we have a position between the sun and the moon. And this is when the moon enters the shadow of the earth. And this is associated with energies which are allowed, like portals and black energies which are entering the earth. When this is happening, we certainly need to be very spiritual. We need not to watch the eclipse. We need not to, I am repeating this, you maybe saw it in my other videos, but we need not to expose our food to the eclipse, not eat, just do our routine work and some spiritual activities and watch the eclipse as less as possible. And now the details on the eclipse. So there are ancient Babylonian cuneiform clay tablets, where it is written that the eclipses in general mean trouble. And especially the color of the eclipsed luminary is very important. So everything should be analyzed. They would look at the timing of the eclipse, which lunar day it takes, and so on. And we'll look at all this. So remember, when the eclipse is happening, to see for your territory which wind blows. If the northern wind blows, then the gods will have mercy, and your particular longitude, your particular area will not suffer that much from the eclipse. This is important note that I would like to know, to make. So I'm sharing with you my screen, and this is the chart of the eclipse happening on the 14th of Tibet, and this is the 14th lunar day. The 14th lunar day in the ancient world, and still absolutely applicable today for the astronomical sidereal astrology, is that the 14th lunar day is associated with Akkad, ancient Babylon, and this is related to Europe. So not only that the eclipse will be visible from, the shadows of the eclipse will be visible from Europe, they will pass through Europe, but the 14th lunar day is related to Europe. So it means that the results of this eclipse will be felt very much in Europe. Then, because this is the evening watch, and the evening watch will be completed, what is it meaning? We divide the day and the night into 3 equal parts, and every part has certain meaning, and it's related to certain country, geographical area, and is also related to the prolongation of the eclipse and how long the effects of the eclipse will be felt. So this eclipse will take place during an evening watch. The evening watch will be completed because the eclipse will be taking too long. So it would say that this eclipse will be influencing Elam. And Elam is associated with contemporary China and some other Asian countries. So this will certainly impact China. Whether this will be economically, very possibly, whether this will be related to natural disasters also and hostilities, very possibly. But at first it may really influence the economy. The evening watch is associated, according to other sources, to Akkad as well. So Europe and China may feel quite powerfully the effects of this eclipse, and they are never positive. Well, after the negative experiences, there is always a positive outcome, which is always wisdom gaining, which is always learned lessons. So bad and good are not applicable in this particular case. So the evening watch completed is very good in terms of land, in terms of corpses. It is the sign, as you can see here, it is touching the axis of Capricorn, Cancer. So the completing of this evening watch is very much related to the lands, to the fruitfulness of the lands, to the corpses. So this, in these terms only, this eclipse will be positive. Month Tibet is also associated with Elam, China. So it will be very much about China. They will very much feel the consequences of this eclipse. Another interesting thing here to see is Venus and Jupiter together in Scorpio, of course, have aspect with the eclipsed area. See, trine aspect with the moon, trine aspect with sextile with the sun. And this is quite fine because the gods will not allow the extremes to go too far, too many people to suffer. So also it is said it's an ominous thing, especially with Venus in Scorpio near the belly of the Scorpio, near the star of Antares. And this is saying that there will be too much rains and there will be too much water. So it's very possible that after this eclipse, we see a lot of rains, a lot of water, which will be not so positive for the corpses, of course, but we may experience this as a result of this ominous placement of Venus. Saturn, who is ruling the place of the Sun, is invisible together with Mercury, and Mercury is just on the edge between Sagittarius and Capricorn, just before entering the place of the Sun. And the invisibility of Mercury is such that there is a relation between Mercury and the Sun. So there is particular reason also to say that Mercury, it's like sharing the place of the Sun in Capricorn. So all these invisible planets related to the sign of Capricorn, being in Sagittarius, this so spiritual and so philosophical sign, and this eclipse in this particular moment would say that we need to be very, very careful with fake spiritual teachings that can kind of mislead us, or will at least make attempts to mislead us. So we need to be very careful with lies that will come from the media. We need to be very careful with teachings, philosophies that will be having bad intention. So we need to be very conscious, very aware. The evening watch will be completed, and the evening watch promises a duration of the effects of this eclipse for 3 months and 10 days. So this is another ominous thing. But don't forget, if in your area northern wind will blow, the effects of the eclipse will be very much softened. However, let's not forget, always eclipses are bringing death, and the evening watch is always associated with death. People which are meant to pass to the other side will pass. People you often see, like I have such experience I saw too many accidents on the highway during one of the eclipses, or there are always negative events associated with the eclipses. So whatever you hear, like a transformation, yes, but the transformation is always as a result of some hard lessons that we need to go through. Of course, we all need to know, not only on mundane level, but how will this affect us? And I will certainly tell you. Just basically to share 2-3 sentences about the markets. In general, the eclipses are always very much influencing the markets. They create confusion. They make the markets very volatile. So this is certainly not a moment for investment, not the moment for any games on the market, so to say. And keep this term given by the ancients, like 3 months and 10 days after the eclipse. Stay away from investments, negotiations. Don't forget that Mercury is involved in this eclipse. Another thing to say, it is the axis of the Sun, of Capricorn, Cancer. This will be not, if you remember already last year in the summer, also in the winter, we had eclipses affecting this particular axis, and it impacted enormously because Mars was also there. It impacted enormously the markets, created devastating disasters, natural disasters. This eclipse will not be associated with fires like it was happening in the summer. It will be associated with a lot of water. And this is happening also because Mars is in Pisces at that time, also because of the placement of Venus, which we spoke about. So yes, there will be fruitful land, but there will be also a lot of water. So we need to take this into consideration when we will be planting the spring copses, for example. Now, markets will be volatile, so be careful with investments. Very, very volatile will be the markets. It will be nearly impossible to make reasonable prediction separately on the stock markets and on the gold prices, on the silver prices, because they will be very, very much influenced by this eclipse. On personal level, if you cannot look at eclipses like searching for aspects in your chart, more important is to look whether this eclipse is eclipsing a luminary in your chart. For example, if you will be having Sun, Moon on the axis of Capricorn and Cancer, also if you're having, then you will certainly have a period for about 3 months when you may not be very lucky, when you may feel tired, when you may feel exhausted, when you may have some disharmonies related to your health, or for example, you will notice that you're not very lucky, that when you will be applying for some new job, for example, it will not work the expected way, or we will be applying for a bank credit, for example, it will not be happening the expected way. So this is a bit of unlucky placement if you're having sun, moon eclipsed, or on the ascendant and descendant. So if the axis of Capricorn, Cancer is existing on your ascendant, descendant, or midheaven, lower meridian, this is a period where you should be a bit cautious in terms of new plannings, new investments, new initiatives. Do your routine work and stay a bit away from such initiatives until the influences of the eclipse are softened a little bit. These are not so dramatic events because we do have them every year, like more than 2, sometimes more than 4 eclipses are happening, but still it is really good to be on the safe side. And if your axis, if this particular axis is on your chart influenced by the eclipse, be careful in terms of new steps, in terms of your health, be responsible for your health. So this is very important. Negotiations as well. Remember, Mercury was involved. The negotiations may not really result in the expected or hoped by you way. So this is very important, especially if you're living in Europe, if you're living in China. Of course, this eclipse will be visible from all over the world. So let's be careful. Let's also not forget that many countries are ruled powerfully by Capricorn. The Balkans, Bulgaria, Greece, Turkey will be influenced heavily by this eclipse, and the people, the common people, will suffer. So, what to do? Be very spiritual. Be connected with the wide spirit world. Certainly not give place for fears, for anxieties, for depression. Certainly be very spiritual, be very conscious of what is happening, because knowledge is power. But the more we know, the more safe we can be. So this is the key. Not expose your food during the eclipse. Don't watch the eclipse. Look also at my other video, which I made about the eclipse, which is also which happened just a few days ago in January, on January 5th and 6th. We're still under the influences of this eclipse, because it covered the axis of Sagittarius, Gemini, and again Saturn was a main player. So the kings, the ruling figures, will not be affected heavily because Saturn was invisible, and according to the ancients, when an invisible malefic planet is participating in the eclipse, this is not that negative for the ruling figures. But of course, the common people will experience this and will suffer. So, in order not to be victims of this eclipse, let's be very spiritual, pray, connect with the spirit world, be very conscious and be very empathic, do good deeds so that we attract the healing and the good powers of the wide spirit world. So I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you. With this I'm completing.